listening to Wake Up and Read the Labels, your guide to eating simple and feeling good. If you want to eat clean and feel your best, guess what? You're in the right place. Each week, we talk about ingredients that may be holding you back from feeling your best. We also talk to some brands that are going against the grain and actually using real ingredients we can recognize. Plus, we're sharing stories with people who are just like you, who actually woke up and read the labels. Welcome to Wake Up and Read the Labels podcast. Today, I'm going to have a conversation with Dr. Aimee Warren, who's a physician and founder of Cura Chai, and she blends her expertise in natural medicine with a passion for holistic healing. Welcome, Dr. Warren. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. So, do you go by Dr. Aimee or Dr. Warren?
Either one. Dr. Aimee is just fine too.
Okay, I'm going to go with Dr. Aimee. So I have to tell you, I met you at a farmer's market in San Diego this summer, and I was under the impression you were just a doctor now selling golden milk latte, but I know you wrote me an email and said, hey, I'm in between seeing patients. So you're a practicing doctor.
I am. You know, I took a big break last year to start this company, the Cura Chai company, and I really just needed a break myself, just in general. But really my heart is with seeing patients and being in this capacity and, you know, working in this environment. So now I'm back at work, seeing patients, and it's just a few days a week. And it's in a setting that really nurtures the kind of physician that I am and the sort of mindset that I bring to my practice. So that was really important to me when going back to seeing patients, that I really found something that suited me and suited my practice style.
So this fills your cup, doesn't drain you, right?
Yes, exactly. So I was feeling really drained for sure.
Are you seeing women mostly, men? What are you seeing?
Well, out where I'm at it's in a really rural area, and which I love because we see full scope family practice. So I see babies, I see elderly, and everywhere in between. I see men, I see women. But in general, my practice tends to attract more female patients for sure. But I do see full scope family practice.
Are you wanting to eat better, but this clean eating thing's just a bit overwhelming? Maybe you just don't know what to cook, or you don't know how to find the clean product swaps at the grocery store. Well, I want to make this simple for you. You can get clean swaps and an anti-inflammatory recipe delivered to your inbox every Saturday by going to thelabelletter.com. Okay, so let's dive into your practice, because I want to know, I read you like to do natural medicine. So I like to define what that is conventional medicine, and what are most people struggling with?
Yeah, so those are really good questions. I mean, I think I tend to sort of swing to the middle of conventional and holistic practice. You know, I think there's a place and a time for conventional medicine. I think that, you know, it saves people's lives in certain circumstances, but there's so much we can do with holistic medicine and plant medicine, and lifestyle is a huge thing. So I'm certified in lifestyle medicine, and that's really the foundation of how I practice. And so yeah, that is sort of how I approach every patient, is with that mindset. And how do we get to the root cause of what's going on with this patient and offer other options other than just prescriptions, you know? So that is why it's hard for me to practice in a conventional setting, because we're really confined by time, right? So it's like a 8-minute visit where you go in, you have high cholesterol, here's a statin, and I'm out the door. Versus if you can sit with a patient and really get to maybe why that is a problem for them. What are they eating at home? What kind of cultural things are happening? What kind of, you know, family history, all of those things that really help me help the patient, really guide what options they have as far as plant medicines, holistic medicines, and really getting to the root of what's going on in their lifestyle to help them heal naturally. So that's the main thing that I really try to, every time I open the door, no matter if it's a patient coming in for something acute or a chronic disease, I really try to come in with that framework.
Okay. So I'd say the average age of listeners, yes, everyone listening right now is mostly women, and they're between the ages of 35 and let's say 65. So with your practice, a general sample of, the population, what do you think people are struggling with today more than they have been maybe when you first started?
Yeah. I mean, I think I have my patient practice is very much that similar age. And I tend to see a fair amount of patients who, everything sort of quote unquote looks normal on their blood work, but they still just feel not well. They're struggling with fatigue, they're struggling with skin problems, they're struggling with GI issues, chronic migraines. These are things that, don't readily show up on blood work, and they're told everything is normal and they're sent out the door, but they still don't feel well. So often that's kind of the patient that I'm seeing, and we're trying to kind of, again, get to the root cause of what's going on with that patient and, um, offer some hope, right? That's what patients are looking for, is like, well, gosh, everything is normal. So why do I still feel this way? And so really trying to understand maybe what's happening with that patient on those foundational levels. So I kind of think about our health as like a house, right? And our house sort of sits on this foundation of lifestyle. And in that foundation is our diet, what kind of foods that we're eating, what kind of movement we're getting throughout the day, what's our stress like, what's our sleep like, what kind of substances are we drinking, smoking, whatever. But then really at the core of that, at the center, the sort of the keystone of that is our stored emotions and what have we been through in our life that has it kind of feeds into everything else, right? Because if you have sort of stored emotions, stored trauma, stored anger, resentment, whatever, at that keystone, it's going to affect your motivation to exercise. It's going to affect how you sleep. It's going to affect how you manage your stress. So really looking at each one of those things in a really deep way, I think, is how we get to true health and healing.
I love it. So I heard you mention plant-based foods that heal.
Yes.
And I think that kind of ties it into your Cura Chai, which for everybody listen, I have their golden milk latte that has turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, marshmallow root, turkey tail, black pepper, monk fruit, which I do want to dive into.
Yes.
But how did you get into plant medicines and plant-based foods that heal?
Yeah. Well, this is how I like to heal myself. I don't like taking prescription medicines. I don't like prescribing prescription medicine. So it really was out of my own personal exploration. Most physicians don't get any sort of nutrition training at all in medical school. I think that's shifting a bit now in our younger generation of doctors, hopefully. So it was really out of my own curiosity on how to heal myself naturally, how to treat my kids. If they have an earache, I don't want to just rush to antibiotics. What other options do I have? So it was just, this kind of diving into learning these things for myself. And it just was so fascinating to me. We've used these medicines for centuries, and so starting to pull that into my day-to-day ritual and helping my kids, and then that sort of spilled into my medical practice. And then, fast forward 10 years and I'm super burned out and, trying to kind of bring in some creativity into my life and kind of tinkering in the kitchen with these different plant medicines. And I'm a fully plant-based. And so I'm really, I love just healing my body, and I feel good when I'm eating good, so this is all just sort of feeds into where my company came from. And yeah, I think there's so much power in plant foods and the foods that we eat. It can either really lift us up and empower our health, or it can really sink our ship.
Yeah. So you're plant based. I heard on a podcast once and it was like, hey, if you're plant based, great, but you really need to be working with someone probably like you, to help make up for deficiencies, say the amino acids you find in meats. Is that accurate? Like you got to be really dialed into your labs in your deficiencies if you're plant based.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to be so worried about that. I think as long as you're eating a variety of plant-based foods, I find a pitfall often with my patients that have gone plant-based. They go for a lot of the processed meats or like the fake meats and the fake cheeses. And, so they're not necessarily eating a lot of plants. They're eating a lot of highly processed plants that sort of look like meat. And that's not really healthy, right? So really trying to get people to eat whole foods. So I don't ever tell my patients necessarily that I'm fully plant-based unless they ask. I think the more I can get people to eat whole foods, bulk beans that you're soaking overnight, or, things that look like food, and avoiding those highly processed foods, that's a win. But yeah, I mean, to avoid those potential deficiencies, I think you really do have to be mindful, no matter what kind of diet you eat, right? Is eating a variety of foods, eating, in season, visiting your farmers markets if you can, and trying to, eat a variety of whole fruits, whole vegetables, whole grains. And then if you're going to eat meat, make sure it's really clean and in moderation.
Okay, beautiful. What makes your products unique? Like, I know you have a golden milk latte. What else do you have?
Yeah, so my first products that I started with was my chai. And so our chai concentrates, I started making that because I love chai, but I hate all the sugary junk that's kind of available in the coffee shops and such. So I started making it at home and putting my plant medicines and my mushrooms and my adaptogens in it. And I was like, man, this is really good. So it kind of started from there. So we have three flavors of chai. They're all no sugar. They're all organic. And that's the sort of main products that we have. And then the plant medicines are the golden milks. We have a blue rose latte. We have a ceremonial cacao, matcha. We have lots of different delicious kind of latte mixes. And then we also have the plant medicines in their sort of pure form. So, organic mushroom blend or mushroom blend with greens. I have like a hormonal support blend. So lots of good stuff there too.
Okay, and who should be incorporating these? Like you're saying, mushroom blends, right? Is that the plant medicine that you're talking about, or is literally everything the plant medicine? I would imagine turmeric, ginger, and cinnamon are also plant medicine. Yes.
They are. They are
Okay.
for sure.
So I guess people have heard of turmeric, anti-inflammatory. People have heard of ginger. They've heard of cinnamon, but not many people probably heard of marshmallow root and turkey tail. Why don't you tell
Yeah.
us about this?
So marshmallow root is not the marshmallow that we think about in the big puffy white bag, right? So marshmallow root is a plant that it helps to increase the mucin lining in the gut. So I don't know if you've heard of like leaky gut. That's something I hear a lot in my practice is, we have chronic GI issues and malabsorption. So often that happens because there's chronic inflammation in the gut and there's a decrease in that barrier between the foods that are being digested and the intima of the intestine. So that mucin lining, that kind of slippery mucus layer, protects that gut surface from damage. So mushroom or marshmallow root helps to improve that mucin lining. So it's really good for gut health. And then turkey tail is a mushroom, and it's a really potent adaptogenic mushroom. We call it adaptogenic because it kind of goes into the body and helps just mellow out cortisol levels. It helps balance hormones. It can help stabilize blood sugar, things of that nature. So it's a really good, that one specifically I put into the golden milk because of its anti-inflammatory properties. So those struggling with gut issues can really benefit from taking turkey tail.
And should people be taking this every day, multiple times a day? Is it good for everyone?
Yeah. So that's the benefit of plant medicines is that it's just food, so there's no real upper limit necessarily. I mean, I guess if you were up at the, you know, cups a day, it might become problematic, but in small amounts, when you're doing like a little golden milk latte or something like that, it's really just good natural mineral vitamin rich food. So there's really no upper limit, and they're so natural and mellow in the body that there's no side effects. So that's the beauty of it. And that's really what I try to focus in on with my patients is these things have no side effects. If you're taking a statin, I have to kind of rattle off a list of potential side effects. So these plant medicines, adaptogens, you can sort of incorporate them into your daily routine and not have to worry about that. And but generally speaking, for the mushroom blend or the mushroom blend with greens, I usually recommend like a tablespoon or so in a smoothie or put it into your soup or something like that. And that's plenty. You don't need a lot. You don't need these heaping amounts of these plant medicines to get their benefit.
What are some common misconceptions about these plant medicines or holistic remedies that you want to debunk today?
Yeah. So I think a lot of time, as far as just going plant based, I think there's a lot of misconception about getting the nutrients that you need. And so that I think can really be remedied by eating more whole plant based, a variety of foods, and really trying just to be mindful of going for those whole foods. So as far as plant medicines go, there's a lot of, maybe misconceptions about their efficacy, and they're not necessarily backed by double-blinded placebo-controlled studies and things of that nature, which that's something I contend with rather frequently because I work in the conventional medical setting, so we always look to guidelines to help um, manage patients in a way that they're going to have the best outcome. But when you look at the data, the longevity data, the places in the world where people live the longest, this is what they're doing, right? They're eating whole, rich, plant-based diets. They're exercising every day. They're doing all of these things that really support longevity, and they're doing so in a way without all of these interventions that we're doing in conventional medical care. So they're not on a ton of medical, prescription drugs and things of that nature. They're using their garden to keep them healthy and whole.
Mm-hmm. Which is foreign to people, unfortunately, right? It's
Yes,
crazy. It's
it
crazy.
is. It really
We've
is.
we've been so far removed from where food comes from and what food is
Uh-huh.
that people don't even see the problem anymore. It's wild.
It's true.
Yeah. What does like reading labels mean to you personally in the context of health and wellness?
Yeah. So this is something I talk to my patients a lot about, is being sort of mindful and smart consumers. I think that it's been such a disservice of this push of highly processed foods, and it's not our fault. It's like it's the system that is sort of pushing these toxic foods down our throats almost, and it's so much easier to get these foods, and it's so much cheaper sometimes to get these foods than it is to, eat healthier foods. But I think that is one of the misconceptions, that it's really expensive and it has to be really pricey to eat plant-based, and it really doesn't. I think, you know, the more you can, shop in bulk and buy bulk 1 pound bag of beans is super cheap, and then that lasts you a long time. If you do those really quick kind of convenience foods, yes, they might be more pricey, but going to your farmer's market, and if you go a little tip, if you go later in the afternoon when they're almost closing, sometimes they'll give you discounts and things like that. So it doesn't have to be super expensive, and it can really, the cost, I think I heard you talk about this on one of your podcasts, just the cost of poor health is something that we underestimate. We think about the immediate cost of the foods that we're purchasing, and then we don't think about the long-term costs of our poor health down the road. So I kind of think of our health as like a bank. We spend so much of our resources and our time investing and thinking about where our money's going, but then we're not investing in our health, and we're not investing in our longevity, so that when we retire, we're spending all of our money on medical costs
Getting
and
healthy.
not, yes, and getting healthy.
I tell
So
people you can pay you either choose, you pay the farmer or you pay the pharmacy. That's where your
that's
money's
exactly
going.
right.
Then it's like you work your whole life to accumulate this wealth until you get sick. Then you use all your wealth to try to get healthy again. Right. And being sick sucks. Like, even if you're not, super sick, but there's a lot of people that are taking time off of work and they are depressed, and their relationships are being affected. They're, not self-confident. They can't fit in any clothes. They're having to buy more clothes. They're having to take more time off of work. They're just taking, quick pain remedies. I heard someone the other day that their daughter was like, "Mom, my stomach hurts." And I saw they ate a box of donuts and a big thing of like nasty milk in the morning. "Mom, my stomach hurts." And the mom's like, "Oh, well, we're just going to give you Pepto-Bismol or Gas-X." And I'm thinking, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's not the way it is, but it is. It's
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah. And I think, I really try to meet patients where they are, because there is often there's a disconnect between the foods that I put in my mouth and the way that my body feels, so really trying to get them to pay attention. Like, okay, you have this headache, maybe keep a diet journal, or you have these recurring stomach aches, keep a diet log, and just see, is there any connection between what you're putting in your mouth and the way that your body's feeling? Because I think in our busy lives in our culture, we're just not present. We're not here. We're not in our bodies, right? We're on our phones. We're living in the future. We're worrying. We're doing all these things, rushing around. And so there's not a lot of turning back inward and asking your body, like, how do you feel today? What do you need today? And, if you're feeling bad, is there any connection between what you're doing in your lifestyle with the things that you're eating and how your body is feeling? So, I think that mom probably doesn't think that way for herself either. She probably doesn't make those connections like, wow, I don't feel good today. Maybe it's something that I ate. So it just sort of gets perpetuated over time.
Yeah, most people. I did this like talk once, and I started off with basically saying food and health are disconnected. And so that's our real big problem in our medical system, but it's also a problem in consumerism, is that when people are going to the grocery store, or choosing whatever foods they're eating, wherever they're eating, they don't have that direct connection of what's going on my plate or what's going into my basket is going to determine how I feel later today or how I feel tomorrow. Um, so it's hard for people to understand that. And I agree. It's really not their fault. It's society. Society is created this way. I also tell people that if you don't teach your kids the right way, if you don't learn the right way, like, society is going to teach them the wrong way. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's all of our responsibility. It's my responsibility as somebody's primary care doctor to start introducing these ideas. And it's the job of our schools, and it's the job of, you know, our government, really. If they're going to be providing school meals, they're the ones that really should be creating this foundation, but usually school meals are trash. And so I think it's, I'm hopeful that it's getting better and that we're starting to sort of shift this tide. But I do think that having kindness and grace for yourself, like as a mom, I sit with a lot of moms in my practice because I see a lot of kids too, and they feel guilty, they feel terrible, like my kid's overweight or my kid has this problem, and they take a lot in as like, that's my fault. But I think that doesn't help anybody, and just being kind to oneself about the process and how they ended up in this place, and then just start making small shifts to to change it. And, we're the change makers. Moms are usually the ones that are doing the shopping, not always, but usually moms are the ones that are doing most of the cooking and the lunch making and all of those things. So the more us moms, we moms and mothers and women in the world, not doesn't necessarily have to be a mom, but um, if we can show up for ourselves and really, as you said, refill our own cups with self-love and self-care, that just ripples out to all of our people. And so, your podcast is great. It's like helping women, make better choices and show up in a way that is nurturing for their families and their kids, because everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody has that same goal. So just just being smart consumers and just asking the questions and finding people in your tribe that can help lift you up and get you where you need to be.
So do you have any story you could share with a patient, obviously leaving them anonymous, but someone that may have been so far disconnected from food, and something you shared with them or something they started, a method that they did, some implementation that really helped them?
Yeah. So I actually have one of my business partners. He won't mind if I share his story, but he came to me, and he was super healthy. He rode his bike every day, and was a fairly healthy eater, but drank some beers here and there, and just kind of had some pockets where we could make some change. And when he came to see me, he had high cholesterol, and so we were talking a lot about lifestyle. And he is like an engineer's brain. He goes to the nth degree with everything. So as we were talking, he just started doing his own research, and it just opened the door to a new way of being for him. And now, a couple of years later, he is 1,000 times better as far as his blood work goes. He doesn't take anything. He's just really, really turned a corner, and he feels great. He's just so much more energetic. And, he just really took everything we said to heart. So to the nth degree, for sure. He went fully plant-based, and he quit drinking completely. But this is really what it takes. It doesn't have to be all at one go, but it's an investment. It's an investment in himself and his longevity and his ability to show up and play with his grandkids, and, increasing his probability that he's going to be around for those grandkids longer term than before. So it was just a really nice to see that he, made such a beautiful change, and it was all on his own. I always say I'm a guide. I'm not, I'm just here doing the work myself. And the more we can work together and learn things together, and the more, we both learn and benefit from that relationship. So.
Awesome. What about for listeners? What are the top 5 plant-based foods they should be implementing every day?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. So greens in whatever form. So organic spinach, kale, Swiss chard, those are so rich in minerals and vitamins. So that's my number one for sure.
And does it matter if it's, organic, regenerative? Should they be steaming it, baking it, sauteing it?
I think, however you're going to get it in, the better. And the least it's, if you're cooking it to where it's wilted and like brown and no longer looks like spinach, that's probably not so good. But I put like a big handful in my smoothie in the morning. I love that. Lightly steamed, lightly sauteed. I think anyway, that is great. Organic is always best, especially in those types of foods. So if you can get organic, that's great. Sometimes I'll even get like frozen spinach in a bag that's organic if it's not in season, and put that into my smoothies. So that's a nice way to kind of get that into. So greens is number one. I think we shy away from grains. There's a lot of, people that are keto, and but I am a proponent of grains. I think they're really good for you as far as fiber. You just have to watch the amount. So about a half a cup, about the size of the palm of your hand. That's kind of like an easy visual that I give to my patients. So, half a cup of whole grains. So quinoa, brown rice, farro, those types of grains I think are good. They're good for your gut microbiome. Your gut microbiome really loves fiber and it helps keep you regular. So
What about most people who are bloated here in America, right? Most people have a leaky gut. They're dealing with inflammation. Would you say things like the anti-nutrients, the phytic acid? I know in grains, they can be higher glycemic. They can also be difficult to digest. We got to worry about pesticides. How do you feel about all those things? Because I try to really educate people on those things. I'm like, we're eating way too much of that, and you need to basically eliminate it to get your gut back in check and get that permeability back up, and then reintroduce those things and see, are you getting bloated? Are you getting running to the bathroom? Is your skin breaking out? How do you feel about all that?
yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of times it is because when we get bloated and uncomfortable and GI distress when we introduce certain foods, it's because our gut microbiome, or those little bugs that help us digest our food, aren't used to eating those types of foods. So it's a symbiotic relationship, right? So if your gut microbiome is not very diverse and it's sort of not very healthy because it's used to eating highly processed foods, it's going to take a while for your gut microbiome to get used to these new foods. So I say the same thing, go slow. Don't jump off the deep end into this type of diet. If you eat something and it causes a lot of bloating, doesn't mean that it will always do that, but just using that go low, go slow type of strategy, and just incorporating a small bit just to, again, introduce those new foods to your little gut bug friends. And that really does help digest over time, helps that.
Okay. Any other foods? So you said greens, you said grains.
Yeah. So I love any fruit. So high, strawberries, berries, those are all, again, high in fiber. I tend to go with more gut healthy foods because I see so much of that in my practice is gut issues with my patients. So those high fiber, lower sugar fruits are great. So fresh berries, frozen berries, I always want to try to get organic with those for sure, because those are sort of on that dirty dozen list of high pesticide, potential for berries. So try to get organic on those, but berries are high on my list for sure. Nuts and seeds are also on my list. When you're, fully plant-based or trying to incorporate healthier foods, I think nuts and seeds are really, they're just high in minerals, high in vitamins, and they can make you feel full a little bit longer. So that's another common complaint I get from my patients is that, I'm just starving. I'll eat a salad and I'm still hungry. So they don't feel satiated, but if you look at my salad, it's like full of walnuts and pumpkin seeds and, I'll sprinkle hemp seeds on there and just all these kind of healthier fats that sort of sit in your gut a little bit longer and help you keep a little bit satiated longer. So that helps.
Here in the South, I know people classify a salad as pre-chopped lettuce in a plastic bag with pre-shredded cheese on top, and then like Hidden Valley or Newman's Own dressing. And it's like, oh, this is mind blowing, but that's why people are hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. So just adding in the rainbow, so I put steamed beets from Trader Joe's. There's really, pre-made steamed beets, and just adding in all these different fruits and veggies into your salad can make it feel more satisfying.
And it tastes better.
It tastes better. Yeah. It's delicious. So I love nuts and seeds. I'm like a perpetual snacker. I always have some sort of snack in my desk, and it's usually like a trail mix of some sort.
Yeah. Have you heard of Daily Crunch?
No.
Oh, you got to check them out. It's women owned, and they're all sprouted almonds, and they'll do different flavor profiles. They'll do like an anti-inflammatory one with turmeric. They'll use real dill weed and do like a dill sprouted almond. It's really good.
Trying that. You can just order them online.
Yeah, they were on our podcast, Daily Crunch.
Oh.
They're actually on it twice. They've been on for a few years. They're great.
Oh, I'm going to try that. Thank you.
Yep.
And then the last thing is avocado. I love avocado. I think that's such a healthy fat. But any other fruit that you like. So I have a lot of patients will say, well, isn't that, really higher in sugar and whatever, but I think it's better than eating a candy bar, So if you're diabetic, you definitely have to be mindful of those things. But, my sort of rule of thumb is if you can get, ideally it's 5 whole fruits, 5 whole vegetables every day. But if you're just starting out, even 1 apple or 1 whole fruit and 1 whole vegetable a day is a win. And then just sort of moving up from there. But that is really the optimal. If you can do 5 and 5 of each every day, that's a really healthy, gut-friendly thing to do. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So for everyone listening, you can go check out Cura Healing. I know that I read a little bit, you have a magazine or you have a blog. How should people, how can listeners connect with you?
Yeah. So they can go to curachaiandapothecary.com and you'll find, you can connect or subscribe to my quarterly digital magazine that I publish for free every quarter. It's called Cura Healing Magazine. And I love to write and I love talking about health and healing in a natural way. So that's a platform for me to do that. And the magazine just comes out to your email once every quarter. And then there's a blog. I also have a natural health blog on that website as well.
Amazing. So everybody can check out the links that are put beneath the podcast. It looks like you can also use the code WAKE UP on your first order to get 20% off. I know that I got this golden milk latte and I love it. I think the ingredients are great and it tastes really good. It's hard to find one that tastes good. So I just mix it with my, my milk or my 3 trees, something like that. But Dr. Aimee, you've been great. I appreciate you so much. And I hope you have a lovely day helping people through plant-based foods.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me on. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Wake Up and Read the Labels. If you like this episode, guess what? We want you to share it. We'd love that. Share it with a friend and leave us a review. You can subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or really wherever you're listening to your podcast. For more information, visit us at wakeupandreadthelabels.com.